Okay, welcome to Sal's Kitchen. Just made that up. What we're making today, most people call baked ziti, but it's not really baked ziti, and I'll explain why in a minute. So I'm just going to go over some of the ingredients. You need some shredded mozzarella. I got about a cup. I never use measurements, so I'm going to do measurements for a pound of macaroni, 2 eggs, generous amount of ricotta. This is a little bit more than a pound, probably a pound and a quarter. I like mine very creamy. Got some great pecorino romano cheese. And here's why we don't call it baked ziti. This is actually penne, but if you look at the picture on the box, it looks more like what we always used. In my house, it was called a Mostaccioli Rigati. And technically, this is Penne Rigati. So if you look at the picture, make sure it has lines on it. That's what Rigati means. So, this was always a big deal in our house, making sure you had the right pasta for the right meal you were making. And my American wife didn't really appreciate that until after having spaghetti with broccoli, for an example, at my parents' house many, many, many times. And we went out to a restaurant, and instead of serving it with little broken up pieces of spaghetti, it was served with rigatoni, and she couldn't eat it. And that's basically how we felt in my house. Certain pastas, certain dishes, certain sauces, you had to use a specific one of the many different pastas that are available out there. And for the baked ziti, we don't want to call it baked macaroni because people get confused. It's really baked Mostaccioli Rigati or Penne Rigati. Difference between Penne and Mostaccioli is the Mostaccioli is a little bit bigger, but this will certainly do. So I got water boiling with salted water boiling. I'm going to throw this whole box, and what you're going to have here is a recipe for making a pound of this, a pound of pasta. So again, we're going to grate about a quarter, maybe a little more than a quarter of that cheese. We'll grate that up, and all of these ingredients are going to go here. And something my mother never did, we're going to put some fresh herbs from the garden. We got some basil, some rosemary, and some Italian oregano. Okay, so I went ahead and grated up, well, it's certainly more than a quarter of a cup, between a quarter and a half a cup. Now, none of these ingredients are exact, but I want to give you an idea. I mean, it's going to be to flavor. You like a lot of cheese, you're going to put more of your grated Parmesan cheese. We're going to beat up those eggs. We're going to add them later. But what I want to show you is we're going to mix the mozzarella, the ricotta, the cheese, some salt and pepper, the herbs. I'm going to cut those up nice and put those in there. I'll show you, you got to kind of cut them finely. Maybe I'll show you some of my knife skills on that. But and you're going to mix that all together. We're going to put the eggs last, and the reason for that is you could mix this mixture of mozzarella, ricotta, cheese, the herbs, and have it in the fridge as something to just mix in with spaghetti or macaroni, any kind of macaroni with tomato sauce. It really gives you a creamy, I like it much better than pasta con sauce with the vodka. This is much more cheesy and delicious. It's kind of a cross between fettuccine alfredo but with tomato sauce. I think you'd like it. So that's why we add the eggs last. In case you want to save some of this, and that's why I went a little bit over with the ricotta, I'm going to save some in the fridge that I'm going to use for just to have with pasta on another time. This we're making the baked ziti. I'll keep calling it baked ziti. And we're going to have those trays that we're going to bring to a friend who just had a baby and save one that we're going to freeze. This freezes very well. Now I want to tell you, this complete recipe also uses our naked eggplant, meatballs, and of course tomato sauce. So you have all of those because we're going to kind of top the tray of baked macaroni with some of those little kickers to make it into a full meal. Okay, so salt and pepper to taste. So I got all the ingredients mixed in there except for the eggs. And we're just going to grind some pepper, some salt. Oh, this is the pepper actually. Again, not too much. You got a lot of cheese in here, so you really don't need that much salt, but you can go good with the pepper. So you're talking about, this is probably going to be a quarter teaspoon to half a teaspoon of pepper. I like a lot of pepper, so again, you're going to do that to taste. And of course, I'm using Himalayan sea salt in this. I actually stopped because I'm going to use some kosher salt instead of Himalayan sea salt for the salt in this. And then I'm going to cut the herbs. Okay, so I took a few leaves of the basil. There's probably one row of rosemary, and again, just the leaves of the oregano. And what you want to do, and again, if you want to use the dried spices for this, it's fine. But if you have it in your garden and you get fresh, you want to squish it all together like this. Oh, before I did this already, but always make sure that it is much more important to have a very sharp edge, or very clean edge, we should say, when you're cutting herbs. You don't want to have any green in the cutting board. And this is more important than doing this with steak. You do it with the herbs. You then bring this close. I guess I should turn this around so you can see. I'm bringing this close in here so that there's no green showing. And then I'm going to chop it, but I'm going to do it the other way so you'll see it from the other side. So I'm bringing that all in there so I don't see any green. And then I'm actually pushing the herbs underneath the knife. Again, you don't have to worry about cutting your fingers when you're doing it this way, because you're pushing the herbs just by the end of the herb, you know, what's behind it, and so a little of it is coming through, and that's all that's being cut. You see it getting cut there nice and fine. Of course, be careful. You always put your fingers like this, so you're not going to have a chance of putting your finger under there. All right, I'm not going to show you all of that, but after I'm completely chopping this up, this is going to be almost to a dice. I don't know why I said almost to a dice. You're doing a chiffonade. You know what that is, French style, and then you're cutting it into tiny, tiny little pieces. You really want this juice to permeate through the cheese mixture that you're going to put it into. So you literally just throw this right in there, and this is, I'm going to mix this up. Take a little out, put it aside, maybe for the macaroni sauce I'm going to have later, some plain macaroni sauce. And put some of this in it. So you're just going to stir that up. Now, the people say that you shouldn't cook the pasta the full amount. So like if it says 10 minutes, do it, 9 minutes. If it says 11 minutes, do it 10 minutes. I say just follow what's on the box. The reason they say that is because it cooks more when you put the pasta in the oven, but it just as much dries it out when it's in the oven. So I would just do the actual cooking that's on there. And we're going to put some more pepper in there. And you can taste this as you go. Make sure you have enough of your salt and pepper in there. I'm going to scoop some of this out, just put it in a little container for myself. So you're going to end up with about a pound of this mixture when you're done. And then I'm going to stir in the eggs. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the reason you're using a giant bowl like this, just to mix up that little bit of cheese in there, that means the macaroni's done. It's been boiling this whole time. Is because you're going to put the macaroni in here too. When you stir it up to mix it all together, the Mostaccioli or the Penne Rigati is going to go in here, so you need a big bowl to do all that mixing. Okay, always beat the egg first before you mix it. Get it nice and thoroughly mixed. And just pour it right in your cheese mixture. And this is going to work as a binding agent for when the pasta cooks. So mix that thoroughly so the egg and everything is thoroughly mixed throughout. This is one of the main reasons you're going to cook. Pretty much everything could be eaten raw except the eggs. So you're going to cook after you put it in the tray, you're going to cook that tray for at least 20-25 minutes. If you take it right from hot pasta that was just taken off the stove and mix it all together and put it, you really don't have to cook it more than 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You just really want the cheese to melt. But we'll get to that in a minute. But again, you do need to cook it at least 10 or 15 minutes because you did put that raw egg in there. Okay, so you can see I put the pasta right from the pot in there. Now I'm going to get my wooden spoon and mix it up. You don't want to use a metal spoon. There it is. I thought my spoon was still in there. There it goes. You can use the wooden spoon because you don't want to break up the macaroni. and this is a little gentler on it than if you were using the metal spoon we used to mix up the cheese. I wish you could smell this. Yes, and it even looks as delicious as it tastes. So it's this very creamy mixture. I mean, you could eat this just the way it is, but remember, you got raw eggs there. But this is basically what you would have if you didn't use the eggs and just mix this to have as a pasta dish. Believe me, it is delicious. Sprinkle a little more cheese on it and you're good to go. Okay, so we're gonna get this, and I think I could split it up into 2 trays of a ½ a pound each, but I may end up doing a little more in one tray. That's for this family that's gonna eat it tonight. But basically this whole pound is gonna be put into trays so it could then be put in the oven. Okay, so here's your aluminum tray. You know, I have permanent trays, but since I'm delivering this to somebody. And the way you're gonna prepare your trays is you're gonna get your tomato sauce and line this with the tomato sauce. So here's the giant pot of tomato sauce I made. I make it so I have it frozen for weeks to come. And I'm going to just ladle some of this on here. Get your spoon. And instead of using oil or butter on this so it doesn't stick, you're just going to sometimes easier to use the spoon. Put that in there. You get it all lined. And as you put this in, you're going to make sure there's sauce going up the sides too. Okay, and that's going to stop the cheese or anything else from sticking. There's a lot of olive oil in my sauce, as you know, and that certainly is enough to keep anything from sticking. Okay, and again, my mom would sometimes say, "You guys want baked ziti or based Mostaccioli Rigati, or do you want lasagna?" Lasagna is so much harder to make, and we always chose baked ziti. This was something we preferred over lasagna any day of the week. All right, but maybe on Sundays. All right, and then you're just gonna scoop this in here. Couldn't be more simple. All right, so I'm gonna pause while I get this all ready. See how I'm gonna split this up. Okay, well, I judged the size of this tray wrong. I should have used a smaller tray. This is only for 2 people and a little baby, but they should be able to share it. So they ended up getting probably more like 3/4 of a pound of macaroni in here. But what you're gonna do is you gotta be careful. You don't wanna use the same ladle. You wanna get some of the tomato sauce, and you're gonna layer this with tomato sauce. Not overly done, just to cover it. I'll show you. Now, even though this kind of looks like it's a lasagna type dish, you could try cutting it into rectangles or squares, but not when you have that much ricotta in it. You just use like a slotted spoon or something to put it into everyone's plate or dish. It's going to work better than trying to get it to cut out like the way you would lasagna. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle some more mozzarella. So I forgot to tell you, save some of the mozzarella that you're going to sprinkle on top of this, and when you cook it, when that mozzarella is melted to your liking, at least 10, like I said, 10-15 minutes. If you want to cook it a little lighter, maybe even put a broil on top of it and get the mozzarella to brown a little bit. Some people like it like that. But before I do that, I'm going to put some pieces of my naked eggplant and meatballs on top of this. You got to check those other recipes out to get that finishing touch. Okay, so now I got some meatballs that I sliced up and I kind of spread it out, and you also have the eggplant in there. I'm just going to kind of guide you how to cut it. I'm going to cover this with aluminum foil, put it in the oven, because I'm going to put it in the oven. It's 4:30 now. I'm going to put it in the oven just before I take it. In the meantime, it's going to stay out here at room temperature. You want to let it settle in. I even say put it in the refrigerator if it's going to be more than an hour or two before you're ready to serve it. But this is a great meal to make. You can make it at any time. When you get to this point, I'm going to put a little more cheese on top of this. You just cover it with aluminum foil, put it in the fridge. 15 minutes, 20 minutes before you're ready to serve it, you pop in the 350 oven and it's ready to go. Do the same thing if you're going to put it in the freezer. You can freeze it, take it out. Obviously, it's going to take a little longer to cook. You're going to start it at maybe 300, cook it for about 20 minutes at that temperature, and finish it off in the last 15 or 20 minutes. Now, 15 minutes should be enough. Again, you're going to watch for that cheese to melt on top. And then you would just serve it, in a bowl or plate, like I said. So I hope this is enjoyed by the people I made it for, and for those who have watched my video and tried it for yourself. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.